The road to Centralia was cracked like old skin. Jack Morelli tightened his grip on the steering wheel as the rusted pickup rolled past the last detour sign, swallowed in creeping mist. Fog clung low to the ground like breath from something sleeping just below. Warm and wrong, the trees, dead or dying, pointed like blackened fingers toward a town no map dared name anymore. But Jack remembered. He hadn't set foot here in over 30 years. Not since the fires. Not since the evacuation. Not since the town was declared dead. The first sign stood crooked at the edge of what used to be Route 61. Faded but still readable if you knew what to look for. Beneath it, 3 words. Welcome to hell? Jack stopped the truck. The silence hit like a fist. Too complete. No birds, no wind. Just the soft hiss of steam rising from cracks in the ground. He stepped out. His boots crunched on scorched asphalt. The road was splitting apart, veins of smoke pulsing from below like the town was breathing. No, exhaling. The smell of sulfur stung his throat, a sour memory. He walked. Boarded houses leaned like drunks in a forgotten bar. A rusted tricycle melted into the sidewalk. Storefront glass long ago shattered. Trees grew through buildings now. Crooked, skeletal things. Here and there, old signs, pharmacy, diner, laundromat, ghosts of a life erased, and then he saw it, his childhood home. Paint was long gone, peeled away by decades of smoke and rain. The porch sagged, the roof caved in, but the door was still there. Still red. Faded but red. His hand hesitated on the doorknob. The brass felt cold, like metal buried in the ground. He pushed. Inside, the house smelled of wet stone and ash. Floorboards groaned under his weight, but didn't give. Dust clung to every surface. A picture frame lay face down on the floor. He picked it up. A boy and his father, standing outside a coal mine, smiling. Jack stared at it for a long moment before setting it back down. He wasn't here for nostalgia. He was here because, 3 weeks ago, someone had sent him a letter. No name, no return address, just a place and a time. Inside that envelope was a photograph, a fresh one. His father, looking exactly as he did in that framed photo, standing outside this very house. Only the photo was dated. Next week. Jack's eyes moved to the mantel. A fresh envelope waited there, addressed to him, unopened. Smoke curled lazily from the cracks in the living room floor. Jack didn't open the envelope right away. Instead, he sat on the old couch, its fabric eaten by time and mildew. The silence had grown heavier. It wasn't just quiet, it was watchful. The kind of silence that waits to be broken. He finally tore open the flap. Inside, another photograph. Blurry, taken from an angle that didn't make sense. From above. It showed him, standing right where he was now, in that very room. A second note was paperclipped to the back. In shaky handwriting. You don't remember what happened, but the town does. The paper trembled in his hands. Not from the wind. There was no wind. The air felt locked in place, like time itself had slowed. He stood, walked to the window. Fog pressed up against the glass like a living thing. He wiped a smear with his sleeve and looked out. There was someone in the street. A child. Small frame. Hoodie up. Barefoot. Jack opened the front door, stepped out onto the porch. "Hey," he called. "Are you all right?" The child didn't answer. Instead, he turned, slowly, like he was underwater, and looked at Jack. It was a face Jack knew, but it couldn't be. The boy looked exactly like Mikey, his younger brother. But Mikey had died. Long before the evacuation, long before the fires. "Mikey," Jack whispered. The boy didn't speak, just pointed toward the mine entrance at the far edge of town, the one Jack's father used to work in, the one they sealed shut after the fires began. And then, without a sound, the boy stepped backward into the fog and vanished. Jack stood frozen, heart pounding. For a long time he didn't move. Then waits a sound. Laughter, faint, echoing. It drifted through the fog like a song half remembered. Then whispers, voices rising and falling like wind through broken glass. He turned in a slow circle. No one there. Only smoke, mist, and silence returning. He hurried back inside and slammed the door. The laughter stopped. Jack leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His fingers twitched. His mind was racing in loops. He wasn't crazy. He knew what he saw, but nothing made sense. Then, a creak from upstairs. He froze. There hadn't been a second floor. Not since the roof collapse. It had burned down when the fire reached the walls. He looked up. Another sound. Footsteps. Small. Light. Like a child. Jack grabbed the flashlight from his bag and slowly climbed the stairs, every step groaning beneath him. At the top, a hallway. Intact. Impossible. The walls were pristine. Wallpaper the same pattern as in his childhood. Blue stripes, tiny stars. A door opened slowly at the end of the hall. He moved toward it. Inside his old bedroom, exactly as it was in 1976. Posters on the wall, baseball glove on the desk, twin beds, one made, one unmade. The window was open. A soft breeze moved the curtains. And carved into the wall, fresh and jagged, "Go below!" Jack stood frozen in the doorway, his breath catching in his throat. "Go below." The words were raw, carved deep, like they'd been scratched by fingernails. He reached out and touched them. The wood still splintered, still warm. A low hum rose from the floor beneath him, a vibration, like something deep in the ground was stirring. He backed away, heart pounding, and left the room. The hallway behind him, gone, replaced by bare, rotting beams and exposed nails. Just like he remembered, just like it should have been. Only his room had returned, and only for him. He didn't stop to question it anymore. The old mine entrance lay on the far edge of town, past what used to be the school, and the diner where his mother waitressed. He moved quickly, cutting through lots overtaken by brittle weeds and sunken soil. The fog thickened as he neared the mine. The air grew hotter. When he reached the fence, it was already half collapsed. The danger signs flapped weakly, as if embarrassed to still be trying. The gate was open. Jack hesitated. He felt like he was standing on the edge of something, not just deep, but hungry. He turned on his flashlight and stepped inside. The mine swallowed sound. His footsteps echoed in unnatural ways. Close, then far, then impossibly distant, like they weren't only his. The deeper he went, the warmer it got. Sweat slid down his back. The rock around him pulsed faintly with heat. Thin fingers of smoke drifted across the tunnels like they had minds of their own. He kept walking. The tunnels twisted like veins. Sometimes he passed collapsed shafts. Sometimes he saw shadows he couldn't explain. At one point he swore he heard breathing, slow, deep, like something ancient exhaling through the stone. Then, a light ahead, not his flashlight, warmer, orange, flickering. He followed it. It led him into a vast, open chamber, a collapsed cavern, but not entirely natural. The rock here was blackened and fused, shaped by heat. Molten veins pulsed across the walls. And in the center, a door, metal, industrial, with a gear lock handle, completely out of place, like someone built it decades after the mine closed. Carved above it, in the same hand as the message upstairs, where they buried it. Jack reached for the handle. It turned, surprisingly smooth. The door groaned open. Inside was a small chamber. Bare rock, low ceiling, and a chair. In it sat a figure, unmoving, dressed in a miner's uniform, helmet still on, head bowed forward. Jack stepped closer, and the figure stirred. The miner slowly raised his head, and Jack saw his own face, aged, burned, hollow. The figure spoke in a voice like coal breaking under pressure. "You left me here." Jack staggered backward. The thing in the chair, the version of him, didn't move again. It sat still, hollow-eyed, like the fire had burned the soul out of it. His flashlight flickered. He turned in a slow circle. The room was no longer empty. Dozens of miners stood in the shadows, silent, unmoving, half swallowed by the walls. Some had no faces. Others had gaping mouths of coal-black ash. Their eyes burned dim orange, like embers that never died. They watched him. They knew him. Then came the voice, not from a throat, but from the very rock. "You never left." Jack shook his head. No, I left. I escaped. I was a kid. He backed toward the door, but the passage was gone, sealed by solid rock. The room was shrinking, the air hotter, the walls pulsing, almost breathing. The Jack in the chair whispered, "We were down here when it started. You remember now." And Jack did. The memories cracked open like the scorched streets above. He saw the shaft collapse. He saw his father scream. He saw the fire rushing in, like liquid hell, swallowing everything. He'd run, crawled through side tunnels. He was just a boy, but he'd never escaped. Not really, his body did. Or maybe something wearing his face, but his mind, his soul, had fractured. Left behind in the place where fire met fear and time stopped moving. The Jack that lived above ground had been a ghost in reverse, a man with no past, only fragments, only dreams of smoke and screams. He hadn't come back to Centralia. He'd never left. Jack dropped to his knees. The smoke around him thickened, curling like fingers into his mouth, his ears, his eyes. He heard voices, his mother's lullaby, his brother's laugh, his father shouting over the roar of machinery. Memories blurred with present. He opened his eyes. He was back on the street, standing outside the house. The same fog, the same silence. But this time, something was off. No sound, no wind, no birds, not even the distant hiss of steam. The street signs were gone. Even the "Welcome to Hell" graffiti, gone. The buildings looked different, too clean, too still, like sets waiting for actors. And across the road, standing perfectly still, was himself. The Jack who'd walked into town. They stared at each other. Then, as if in silent agreement, both versions began to fade, like ash caught in an updraft. The town wasn't haunted. It was hungry. It fed not on bodies, but on memory, identity, time, a place where who you are becomes fuel. From above, the town of Centralia looked like a faded scar on the earth. Fog drifted lazily between cracked buildings. The fire below still burned, quietly, patiently, waiting for the next one to remember. And on the edge of town, a new sign had been nailed to a leaning post. Fresh paint, still wet. "Welcome back."